Hi there, I'm sitting in the nsquared office in Sydney, Australia with Dr. Neil.
Hi.
Hi. And we're here today to talk about the Surface out-of-the-box experience. So when you first open up a Surface, what are some of the things that you want to consider?
So when you first get a unit, you'll probably be really excited and rip the box open and be ready to set up, and you plug it in, and there's a ton of things that you want to think about. The first one is really where are you going to put it? Where are you going to locate the unit? And if you're getting it for development purposes, you want to put it somewhere that's accessible. You want to take the side panel off so that you can actually access the different ports, plug USB keyboard, mouse, maybe a dongle, Ethernet cable, those kind of things. You want to get into it. Also think about putting it somewhere that you can access it from all sides. So don't just butt it up in the corner of a room somewhere. You want to put it somewhere that you can test your application by sitting at it across the table from someone else. So that's an important thing to consider. You want to think about putting it somewhere where there isn't strong direct sunlight. You want to think, because that will affect the cameras inside the unit. Mm-hmm. So the vision system won't work so well. You want to think about putting it somewhere where there isn't strong spotlights, because that will also affect the cameras. So you want good lighting conditions, you want a location that you can access it from all sides, and then the other thing to consider is the cables, because it's going to have a power cable, potentially you'll plug in a network cable, maybe another screen to do debugging, keyboard, mouse. You want it accessible from all sides, but then you also have these cables. You want to make sure people don't trip up over those cables. Yank out the power cord from your unit while you're working on it, stuff like that. So there's a few things you want to think about. It's not, it's obviously it's not a laptop or a desktop that you just, put at your desk and you're ready to roll.
Right, so it sounds like you need to put some thought into where you want it to be and kind of envision that before you take it out of the box and get ready to use it.
Yeah, and it's a heavy thing, right? It's 100 kilos or so. It's a couple of £100 of hardware. It's not something you just go, oh yeah, well I'll have it here today and tomorrow we'll move it here and the next day we'll move it here.
Right.
The other thing to think about is that as you do move it around, you may need to recalibrate it, and actually the first time you get it, you're going to need to calibrate it.
That was going to be my next question. Tell me about the calibration process. Why is it important?
So the calibration is really what defines how the cameras, or what the cameras see and how they see it correctly. The unit should be calibrated in the factory with like a base level calibration, but depending on background lighting conditions, depending on how things have moved during shipping it to you, it may need a little bit of calibration that will offset it's a data file that's stored on the device that defines exactly a more clean definition or a clearer definition of what the cameras see. And there's two types of calibration. There's basic calibration and advanced calibration. Basic calibration /W on the calibration tool. Mm-hmm. I actually think the W stands for a waste of time. And advanced calibration, I think /A actually stands for actual calibration. Okay. And I always do advanced calibration. There's no real reason in a development environment not to do advanced calibration. Okay. The basic calibration just does a background and then against a white, and then it attempts to do the rest itself. The advanced calibration uses a checkered board and then actually matches up the calibration information in the software with all the checkers and the circles on the checkered board. So when you first get a unit, you'll come with a calibration board, and the calibration board needs to be, well, the first thing, the actually kind of surprising thing, that it comes with a film on it, and a lot of people don't realise you have to take the film off. The calibration board requires the film gets taken off. You put the calibration board down on the unit, and then you go through the process. And on the desktop, when you first, once you've gone through this initial setup and install on the unit, the desktop will have the calibration tool on it with initially the basic calibration, which is /W, and you can change that to advanced calibration by just changing a shortcut to put an A instead of a W, and then you can run full calibration.
Right, okay. Okay, great. So I know that on the Surface site there's some instructions on calibration, but
Yeah.
the Dr. Neil way tends to be the most efficient, and that's
well,
where
it takes like an extra 30 seconds to do advanced calibration, and you get a whole lot more bang for your buck.
Great.
So
Cool. Okay. What are some of the main demo apps that you can load from the Surface community site, and
Yeah.
what are some of the good and bad things about those?
So actually, that's an important. A lot of people buy a Surface unit and they think they're going to put the Surface unit down somewhere, and straight away they'll be able to rock up, put their phone down, and get music playing. And actually, when you first buy a Surface unit, it really is just the operating system. There's no apps installed, and so you need to install the apps. And the apps that are you can get from the Surface community site. There's an application suite that contains 3 apps: Concierge, Music, and Photos. They're probably the most well-known Surface applications. They really are demonstrations. They're not fantastic, amazing Surface applications. None of them take advantage, for example, of object recognition or tags. The Photos and Music is kind of a canonical example of how to use scatter view, how to use some of the controls like the library contained control.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of fun applications. Music and Photos, you can customize those, put your own photos, put your own music tracks on the device, and then use those applications, or you can put them somewhere the consumer can use them. Concierge is interesting application. It's certainly not my favorite application.
We know that.
it's a very single user application. People love it because it's got virtual earth or Bing Maps on it, and you can go, oh look, here's my house. But as soon as you go into a mapping type scenario like that, it becomes a single user application. It becomes a very strong driver passenger guided type application. The good thing about Concierge is customizable, so you can customize it to your location where your unit is. You can put things, items of interest, points of interest into the database, and then people can run it and see what's in the area around your Surface unit. But it's not a fantastic Surface application. It has a lot of challenges as a Surface application. Mapping as a whole, that we've talked about before, but has a lot of challenges when it comes to multi-user. And so it's you could easily build Concierge to run on a single touch screen, and it would be almost as effective. And that when you see that kind of scenario, then I think, hold on a minute, why am I doing this? So yeah, I'm looking for a better Concierge. If someone out there wants to build a better Concierge, that would be awesome. I'd love to see it and talk about it. Then there's a ton of other apps. There's a games suite that's available for download on the community site, which has got a bunch of games like checkers and chess, and there's a game called Tiles, which is kind of fun, and that's a really good example of a nice multi-user game. And then there's some other sample applications that you can get, and then with the SDK itself, there's sample applications. Again, they are SDK samples. They're designed to teach you how to use certain aspects of the Surface APIs. They're not great Surface applications in themselves. They're designed so you can look at the code and go, oh, now I understand how that bit works, or now, and it actually makes me kind of cringe whenever I go into a public location and I see a SDK sample running in a public location. I'm like, oh, what is that doing there? This is not designed to be seen by the public. The application suite and the games are, but the SDK sample certainly not.
Right. Okay, that's important to
But
remember.
worth having on a developer unit.
Definitely.
Very important on a developer unit. Things like data visualizer, things like the raw image visualizer. See what's actually happening on the unit and explain, help you understand how to build a better application.
Right.
Very important to have, but never expose them on a public unit.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right, well that wraps it up for today,
Thank
our
you.
out-of-the-box Surface experience setup. So anyways, thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.